I'm Travis Peterson. In this video, we're going to talk about how you're not actually addicted to smoking or cigarettes at all, but what you're really addicted to is your body's unconscious, conditioned response to those cigarettes. It all starts when you have your first cigarette. Do you remember what that tasted like? Do you remember what it was like, what your body's response to that was? Well, if you think back to your first cigarette, well, chances are when you remember that, it probably wasn't the best thing ever. My guess is that when you had that cigarette, you actually experienced a whole great deal of pain around that. And you might have felt nauseous, you might have actually even got sick, you might have felt some vertigo, you might have went green, all this kind of thing. You might have started coughing or wheezing. And that's the effect that smoking has on us, because cigarettes have all kinds of unnatural chemicals in them. They've got all kinds of the tar and nicotine and tobacco and all of that. And I guess it's pretty obvious to say that that stuff's not good for us. So you have your first cigarette, and you remember that was most likely, if you're like 95% of the people that I work with, that cigarette for you was probably really horrible, but you had to work at it. You had to work at getting good at smoking cigarettes, and now you're really good at it. You've learned something, and now you'd like to unlearn what you've learned before. So, your body's response to that first cigarette was to go into massive pain. And what happens is if you stick with it, usually there are unconscious reasons why we stick with it, and we'll get into that in another video, but you stick with it, you keep on going, you keep on having cigarettes, and pretty soon your body just says, fine, you know what? We better make sure that if this person's going to keep on putting all of this poison inside and keep on smoking these cigarettes, well, I'm going to make sure that at least they feel comfortable. So what happens is that the body releases endorphins. Endorphins are the natural pain relievers and mood stabilizers. And they exist inside the body. These are natural. So what happens, the body releases these endorphins when you have a cigarette, and then you don't feel quite so bad. Next time you have a cigarette, your body releases more endorphins, and then you don't feel nearly as bad, and next time, and the next time, and the next time, your body releases more and more and more endorphins until there can be a point when you're smoking a cigarette, as is likely happening for you now, that the moment you even put that cigarette to your lips, your body releases a surge of endorphins, and you are then experiencing relaxation. You're experiencing a relief of tension inside the body. And you know, this is a good thing. It's a great way to relax, but it's not exactly natural. It's something where our body's natural relaxation response has been hijacked by a cigarette. You see, you have the ability to relax all on your own, and you don't need a cigarette to do it. The only thing is that you've been smoking for so long that what's been happening is that your body is actually saving up these endorphins until you have the next cigarette. And so what's happening is you become dependent on cigarettes because your body wants to make sure that you're still going to be okay when you do have that cigarette, that you're not going to go into the pain of maybe vomiting or coughing or getting wheezy and that kind of stuff. And it's working. It's working. Your body is actually doing what it needs to do to make sure that even though you're putting all this poison into it, that you're still going to be okay. Now, it's questionable whether in the long term you're still going to be okay, because there's lots of people, as you know, that they get all kinds of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and the like from continuing to smoke. It's very interesting that nobody has ever died from giving their body some breathing space and quitting smoking. So perhaps something to think about the next time you go to buy a pack of cigarettes is that it's a pretty crazy thing to do. You see, if you go to the store to buy a pack of cigarettes, you're actually handing over your money, $10 or $12 per pack, to get something that you already have inside your body, to get the endorphins that you already have inside. And there are millions of ways to get an endorphin release that do not include smoking at all. But you go to the store and you hand over your money, and the cashier gives you those cigarettes, and then you go home, or you go to work, or you go wherever, and you smoke those cigarettes to get the endorphins that already exist inside your body. Now, this should be a natural process, but it's not, and it's pretty crazy when you think about it that way. It's sort of like me giving you my car and then buying it back from you at $300 a month. It seems completely ridiculous, but it's something that we do all the time. It's something that people do in many different cases because there's a positive intention to that habit of smoking. And part of that positive intention, part of the reason why you're smoking, and a big part of the reason why you might find it so challenging to quit, is because of that endorphin release, and because it just keeps on happening, and because that's what you're getting, and because that's what your comfort is that you get from cigarettes. That's the way that you manage stress. It's not the cigarette. It is not the nicotine. It's actually your body's response to it. Your body responds by releasing endorphins. So, what I've just explained here is known as the nicotine trick. And the real effect of nicotine, when we really, really think about it, the real effect of nicotine is to make you feel a tension or an uneasiness in your solar plexus, your stomach, sort of in the midsection of your body. And it's this anxiety or this tension that the smoker interprets as a cause to have another cigarette. And when they have another cigarette, all that happens is that this cycle is basically started again. Now let me explain a little bit more about what I mean by this. This cycle starts each and every morning when you wake up and have that first cigarette. Now, the life of nicotine, how long it exists inside your body, is about 5 hours. So that means that when you go to bed, if you sleep for about 8 hours, you wake up in the morning, you wake up as a non-smoker. That means there's no more nicotine inside your body. It's not having an effect anymore. And it's with that first cigarette in the morning that your body goes back into that cycle. And what it does, is like I mentioned before, you bring that cigarette up to your lips, take that first inhalation, your body releases endorphins. And then what happens is, of course, when you take that inhalation, you're inhaling the nicotine. Now, the nicotine does not relax you. It's the endorphins that relax you. The nicotine actually causes you this feeling of tension and anxiety that I was talking about earlier. And the endorphins end up sort of masking this feeling. And the interesting thing is the endorphins wear off before the effect of the nicotine does. That means that the endorphins end up wearing off, and then you end up feeling the effect of the nicotine, which makes you feel anxious and tense in the midsection, usually in your solar plexus, chest, stomach. And then, if you have another cigarette at that point, all it does is reset this cycle. So you have another cigarette, and then your body releases more endorphins, and then what happens is the nicotine is covered up again. The effect of the nicotine is covered up again. It's masked by the endorphins. And then again, 2 to 3 hours later, it all depends on the person and how long they've been smoking for, but an hour to 2 or 3 hours later, then the person gets this feeling again, and they have another cigarette. It's just repeated over and over and over again. It's this crazy cycle, the result of which is people basically feel disempowered, they feel controlled, and they feel stressed, anxious, unable to do what they really want in life, unable to be free the way they want to be. So, this whole thing, this whole cycle, this whole crazy, crazy scheme, you could think of it as a nasty scheme perpetrated by the tobacco industry to keep you stuck, to keep you stuck in that old habit of the things that you were doing in the past, that old habit that's not getting you anywhere, that old habit that's really just making you feel bad. And the thing is that cigarettes cause all the anxiety and more that you actually think they alleviate. For any little bit of relaxation you get out of smoking, if you think about it, you realize that there's anxiety, like times 10, that's produced by that little bit of relaxation. And this anxiety is produced by just the feeling of the nicotine inside the body. That's an anxious effect that nicotine has. It causes this tension in your solar plexus, in your stomach, in your chest. I'm pretty sure you know what that feels like. And on top of that, there's the health issues. There's the feeling of feeling like a social outcast. There's the feeling of just feeling like you can't do it anywhere, and so it's a major inconvenience. That causes stress itself. Smoking cigarettes causes much, much more stress than it even begins to alleviate. And it is the prime cause of stress in your life right now. And you might begin to wonder or imagine what it would be like if you could find something in your life, something that could fulfill the same positive intention. It could be a a ritual that you do each and every day. It could be some breathing, or it could be doing yoga, or it could be exercising, or it could be just doing absolutely nothing. And that could be a very nice way to relax. And maybe the only reason why you haven't done that already is because you haven't found something that can work for you, that works faster, that works better, and that works more completely than tobacco of any kind. And maybe when you find this thing, when you discover what it is, well, it might just change your life, because that itself, whatever that thing is for you, that you might discover very, very soon, well, that can fulfill the positive intention of smoking cigarettes if your positive intention for smoking is to relax. And I work with people all the time who smoke cigarettes to relax, and I'm here to tell you that you do not need cigarettes. There are things you can do, there are things that I can teach you that work so much better, so much faster, and then instead of breaking you down, they build you up. They make you feel better and better each and every day. So, this is all about the nicotine trick, about how by smoking you rob yourself of your health, you rob yourself of your confidence, you rob yourself even of a feeling of self-worth and feeling of being in control. And the reason why you have done that in the past is only because you weren't aware of the ways that you could meet that same need in a much more positive way, and because you weren't aware of the real physical effect of smoking. Remember, you're not addicted to cigarettes, you are addicted to your body's unconscious, conditioned response to those cigarettes. And when you learn a better way to get everything that you thought smoking gave you in the past, well, then you'll really, really have those things in your life, and you'll really be feeling better and more in control and happier each and every day.